Welcome to this deep dive into, well, the really fascinating world of artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
That's right.
You sent over some great material reports, study guides, lots of expert takes, and our mission today is really to unpack it all for you.
Yeah, cut through some of the jargon, maybe.
Exactly. Highlight what really matters, especially now as things are moving so quickly.
Think of this as your personal briefing on AGR. We'll hit, what it actually is, how close some folks think we are.
Yeah, this seems to be a big point of discussion right now.
Oh, absolutely. And the different paths researchers are taking, plus some of those really big questions we need to think about.
We'll definitely look at the timeline, some frameworks from the big players like OpenAI and Google DeepMind, and yeah, the ethical side too.
And your sources really show a field moving at, well, breakneck speed. Expert predictions are shifting like crazy.
Yeah, we noticed that. We'll try to pinpoint some of those key shifts and maybe why they're happening, just so you get a clear sense of the current thinking.
And we'll touch on the tech too, right? The different ways they're trying to build it, symbolic AI, neural nets, the hybrid stuff. Yeah. Give you a feel for the toolkit.
Okay, sounds good. Let's dive right in then. The big one first. What is AGI? Like, what are we actually talking about here?
Right. So your sources, they're pretty consistent on this. They define AGI as AI that has cognitive abilities like humans.
Comparable to humans? Or even better?
Comparable or surpassing humans, yeah.
Yeah.
Across a really broad spectrum of tasks. So learning, reasoning, solving problems.
Adapting to new stuff, too.
Exactly. Adapting to new situations with that kind of human-like versatility.
Okay, so it's that general capability. It's crucial to separate that from what we mostly see today, right? The narrow AI.
Absolutely crucial. Narrow AI, or ANI, that's the AI that's, brilliant, but only in specific areas.
Like image recognition.
Or playing chess, or Go, or translating languages. Think of ANI as a specialist, a real expert in one thing.
While AGI is meant to be the generalist.
Precisely. The potential general.
Well, so that chess program, it can beat anyone, but ask it to, I don't know, write a poem or figure out why my car is making a weird noise.
Nope. Not its domain. AGI, in theory, could tackle all sorts of different cognitive tasks, maybe even ones we haven't thought of.
Right, and this brings us back to the timelines, because as you said, the sources really highlight this acceleration.
Yeah, that's one of the most striking takeaways. The whole conversation seems to be speeding up.
It really does. I mean, it wasn't that long ago AGI felt like pure science fiction, decades away maybe.
And now, well, some very prominent people are suggesting it could be much, much closer.
So what are these timelines looking like? You mentioned imminent AGI.
Yeah, so some sources point to an imminent AGI timeframe, maybe 2025, 2026. You've got figures like Sam Altman from OpenAI suggesting it might arrive, well, this year, maybe with a gradual impact at first.
Wow, okay. This year.
And Dario Amodei at Anthropic, he talked about something like a country of geniuses in a data center, potentially by 2026.
A country of geniuses. That's quite an image. A bit intimidating, maybe.
It certainly paints a picture. And you also have Miles Brundage, who used to lead AGI preparedness at OpenAI, expecting systems that could do basically any computer-based human task within just a few years from 2024.
So that's the really near-term view. What about slightly further out, but still soon?
Right. Then there's the short to medium-term view, basically looking at this decade. Jeffrey Hinton, one of the godfathers of deep learning, he estimated AI could surpass human intelligence within maybe 5 to 20 years.
Still pretty soon in the grand scheme of things.
Definitely. And Bengio, another major figure, he's noted that human-level AI within years, maybe up to a decade, seems plausible now.
Plausible. That word carries weight coming from him.
It does. And maybe the most dramatic indicator is the Metaculus community. That's a platform where people make predictions. Their median forecast for AGI. You jump from 2041 all the way down to 2031.
In just 1 year.
In just 1 year. A 10-year shift. That really tells you something about the perceived acceleration.
Wow. Okay, so the consensus, or at least a growing part of it, is shifting towards sooner rather than later, but not everyone agrees.
That's important context, absolutely. While these predictions are speeding up, your sources also acknowledge that some experts are still pumping the brakes a bit.
Why is that?
They often point to what they see as fundamental limitations in our current AI. Things that need, a real breakthrough, not just more scaling.
Okay, so it's not a settled debate by any means. Different experts see the current progress and the remaining hurdles differently.
Exactly. It's a super complex problem. Now, to help us, get a handle on this progress, we need ways to measure it, right?
Yeah, frameworks or roadmaps. Your sources mentioned a couple.
Right. Let's look at OpenAI's first. They proposed this 5-level progression framework back in July 2024. Gives pretty clear benchmarks.
Okay, what are the levels?
So level 1 is basically conversational AI. Think chatbots, the large language models we have now. OpenAI sees itself currently at this level.
Makes sense. They can chat, but they aren't, solving unsolved math problems on their own.
Not yet. Level 2 is reasoners. AI that can do like PhD level problem solving, but without needing outside help, without Googling stuff.
Okay.
OpenAI thinks they're getting close to that one. Then level 3 is autonomous agents, systems that could operate independently for a long time on really complex tasks.
Right. More independent action.
Then level 4 is innovators, AI that could actually develop groundbreaking ideas, real novel solutions.
Wow.
And finally, level 5 is organizations, where AI could essentially function as a whole company or entity.
That's quite a progression. From chatbot to autonomous organization.
It maps out a potential path. Now, Google DeepMind also has a framework. Theirs is a bit different.
How so?
It focuses more on capabilities, cognitive ones, and also what they call metacognitive, like thinking about thinking rather than the specific tech being used. It's kind of like the levels for self-driving cars.
Ah, okay. Like level 1 assist, level 5 fully autonomous. Something like that.
Sort of analogous, yeah. The goal is to create a common language to talk about progress, assess risks, track how things are developing. And interestingly, they've suggested that current LLMs might already be showing, they called it sparks of general intelligence.
Sparks. That's intriguing, like little glimmers of something more general.
Yeah, exactly. Precursors, maybe? Yeah. Hints that these systems aren't just narrow specialists, even if they aren't AGI yet.
Okay. And there was another concept mentioned, the AI 45-degree law.
Ah, yes. That was proposed around December 2024. It's framed as a kind of guiding principle for developing AGI.
Guiding principle how?
The idea is to balance the push for greater capabilities with the absolute necessity of safety. You want progress, but you need it to be safe progress.
Makes sense. Capabilities and safety need to go hand in hand.
Precisely. And this law incorporates something called the causal ladder of trustworthy AGI.
Okay, sounds complex. Break that down.
It has 3 main layers. First, the approximate alignment layer, basically getting the AI's initial goals roughly aligned with ours.
Roughly aligned, okay.
Second, the intervenable layer. This is crucial. It means we need to be able to understand why the AI is doing what it's doing and be able to step in to influence its reasoning if needed.
Controllability and transparency.
Exactly. And third, the reflectable layer. This is about the AI being able to learn and improve its own alignment over time. Self-correction, almost.
Huh. So it learns to be safer and more aligned as it goes.
That's the goal. And these 3 layers define 5 levels of trustworthy AGI, moving from just perceiving things reliably to reasoning soundly, making good decisions, acting autonomously but safely, and finally, collaborating effectively and trustworthily.
So it's a framework for building trust alongside capability.
That's the core idea. As AI gets smarter and more autonomous, our confidence in its safety and alignment has to grow right alongside it. You can't have one without the other, ideally.
You really wouldn't want a superintelligence you couldn't trust, that's for sure. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. How are researchers actually trying to build this stuff? What are the technical approaches? Your sources mentioned quite a few.
Yeah, it's a diverse toolkit. But let's start with symbolic AI. This is kind of the older school GeoFAI, good old-fashioned AI.
Right, logic rules, symbols.
Exactly. Manipulating symbols based on logical rules. It's strong for tasks that require clear reasoning steps, and you can often explain how it got an answer.
Explainability is good.
Very. But it struggles with, the fuzziness and ambiguity of the real world. Things aren't always neat logical rules out there.
Too messy for pure logic sometimes.
Then you have the connectionist approaches. This is the umbrella for neural networks, deep learning, the large language models everyone's talking about now.
Inspired by the brain.
Loosely inspired by the brain, yeah. They learn patterns from massive amounts of data. They're fantastic at pattern recognition, seeing cats in pictures, understanding spoken language.
But maybe not so great at abstract reasoning.
Yeah, it's the challenge. Abstract reasoning, understanding cause and effect, those are harder. And like we touched on, many experts are skeptical that just making current LLMs bigger and bigger will automatically lead to AGI.
Right, the scaling isn't enough argument.
Exactly. So moving on, there are cognitive architectures. These are frameworks trying to model the whole human mind, or at least multiple cognitive functions together. Memory, learning, attention, decision-making.
Trying to build a more holistic model of intelligence.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Aiming for comprehensive intelligence. But actually getting these complex architectures to work effectively on real-world problems is still a major challenge.
Seems incredibly ambitious, like trying to blueprint the mind.
It is. Then, slightly different tack, you have evolutionary algorithms or genetic programming.
Mimicking evolution.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
You generate lots of potential AI solutions, test how well they do on a task, their fitness,
Yeah.
and then you combine and mutate the better ones, like natural selection.
Let the best solutions survive and reproduce.
Right. It can lead to really novel and adaptable solutions, but it can also take a ton of computing power and time.
Okay. So symbolic, connectionist, cognitive architectures, evolutionary. Well,
Well, this is where, according to your sources, things get really interesting. Neurosymbolic AI.
the hybrid approach.
Exactly. Trying to combine the strengths of both worlds. Using neural networks for what they're good at learning from data, pattern recognition, and symbolic AI for what it's good at: logical, reasoning, explainability.
Best of both worlds.
That's the hope. It's seen as a really promising direction to get AI that's more capable generally, but also more transparent and potentially safer.
So you could have an AI that learns intuitively but can also explain its reasoning.
Potentially, yeah. And one specific direction mentioned in your materials from around March 2025 involves using something called graph neural networks, GNNs.
GNNs, how do they fit in?
The idea is that GNNs are good at representing relationships and structures, so they might be a way to bridge the gap between the symbolic world of rules and relationships and the neural network world of continuous data.
Sort of translating between the two.
In a way, helping integrate them more smoothly within these hybrid cognitive architectures.
Yeah.
It's seen as a very promising technical path forward.
Okay, that sounds potentially powerful. Any other major approaches?
The last one is, well, much more futuristic. Whole brain emulation, or WBE.
Scanning and simulating a whole brain.
That's the concept. Replicate a human brain entirely in software. If you could do that accurately, you'd presumably get AGI.
But the technological hurdles there seem immense.
Absolutely immense. We need a far deeper understanding of the brain and much more powerful simulation capabilities than we have today. The very direct route, theoretically, but incredibly challenging practically.
Feels like that one's still firmly in the long way off category for now.
Most would agree, yeah. Now, even with all these promising approaches, your sources are clear. There are still some major roadblocks ahead.
Right, it's not all smooth sailing despite the optimism. What are the big hurdles?
Well, first, there are still significant technical challenges. We talked about robust reasoning and causality. Getting AI to truly understand the world, not just recognize patterns, is hard.
That deep understanding gap.
Exactly. Then there are the safety and alignment barriers. This is huge. How do we guarantee these increasingly powerful systems pursue the goals we actually intend? How do we make sure they're corrigible, meaning we can correct them if they go wrong?
The control problem.
The control problem, yeah. And related to that is something called the embedded agency problem. That's about how an AI might reason about itself within the world it operates in.
Like its own goals, its own existence. That sounds tricky.
It's a deep philosophical and technical challenge highlighted by groups like MIRI, mentioned in your sources. We need to figure that out.
Okay, technical safety. What else?
Governance and social concerns, this is massive too. How do we manage this globally? What are the rules? How do we handle the potential economic disruption, job displacement, shifts in power? We need international frameworks, and we're still figuring that out.
Yeah, the societal impact could be enormous.
And we shouldn't forget the fundamental limitations of current AI. Things like genuine common sense, the background knowledge humans just have, is still largely missing. And generalizing learning to totally new situations is still not as robust as we'd like.
That common sense thing seems deceptively hard to replicate.
It really is. Finally, there's verification and validation. How do we even know for sure when we've achieved AGI? There's no single universally accepted test, like a definitive AGI Turing test.
So we might build it and not even agree that we've built it.
That's a real possibility, yeah. Defining the finish line is part of the challenge.
Okay, so despite the roadblocks, what's driving this intense push, and how are people tackling it?
The drivers are pretty clear. The absolutely transformative potential. AGI could revolutionize science, medicine, education, the economy, pretty much everything.
Huge potential benefits driving the research.
Huge. Plus, there are strategic reasons. Governments, major tech companies, they see this as critically important for the future, both economically and geopolitically. And your sources emphasize that getting there will likely require massive collaboration.
Not just one lab working in isolation.
No way. It needs computer scientists talking to neuroscientists, ethicists, policymakers, sociologists. It's an inherently interdisciplinary challenge. It's too big and complex otherwise.
Right, it touches on so many different areas of expertise and society. Okay, let's try to wrap this up and bring it back to you, our listener, the learner.
Yeah, so what does all this mean for you? Well, exploring these sources shows a field really on the edge of potentially massive change.
Yeah, the timelines are shrinking, the ways we think about progress are getting clearer.
Frameworks like OpenAI's levels or DeepMind's capability categories help make sense of it.
And while the challenges technical, ethical, safety are absolutely significant, you can't deny the momentum.
Right? Undeniable. And what's really interesting, I think, is how those faster timelines are meeting this growing focus on doing it safely.
It's not just build it fast, it's build it right.
Exactly. That AI 45-degree law concept, the focus on trustworthiness, the research into things like neurosymbolic AI using GNNs, these are attempts to tackle both capability and safety, to maybe overcome the limits of just scaling up old methods.
Offering glimpses of how we might build something both powerful and aligned.
That's the hope. So for you, the listener, it really means this conversation about AI, especially advanced AI, isn't just theory anymore.
It's becoming very real, very fast.
Right, and understanding the concepts, the debates, the potential impacts, it's becoming more important than ever. So keep asking questions, keep exploring.
Stay curious. This journey towards AGI, whatever form it takes, is something that's going to involve all of us. Being informed is probably the best first step.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on that idea of trustworthy AGI. We talked about those different aspects: perception, reasoning, decision-making, autonomy, collaboration. As you think more about this, which of those aspects of trustworthiness do you think will be the most critical to get right first? And maybe, what's the biggest hurdle to ensuring that specific aspect is truly trustworthy as AI gets smarter?
That's a good one. Which pillar of trust is most vital early on? Definitely some food for thought.
Something to chew on as you continue exploring this really fascinating space.